Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily forensic briefing at the intersection of business and artificial intelligence. It is Monday, April 13th, 2026. I'm your host, Etienne Newman, professional engineer and passionate soccer dad, broadcasting from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. Before we begin our autopsy of the market, a quick reminder: if you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to AI Unraveled directly on Apple Podcasts so you can enjoy this strategic briefing and all our daily episodes completely ads-free. Today's episode is brought to you by Airia and JamgaMind. When Anthropic rolls out Coordinator Mode, allowing an AI to autonomously manage parallel sub-agents across your enterprise, standard security perimeters dissolve. Airia provides the zero-trust sandboxing required to ensure these agentic swarms follow strict corporate governance. And to navigate the massive vendor shifts happening right now, JamgaMind delivers the technical-grade audio forensics the C-suite relies on. Visit jamgamind.com. Listen, trying to navigate this vendor shift based on Twitter hype is corporate malpractice. You need tools that actually execute. I've done the ruthless auditing for you at jamgamind.com/toolkit. The AI Executive Toolkit is a private, forensic-vetted implementation stack, featuring heavyweights like Chatbase, 11 Labs, and Airia. No fluff, no beta tests. Just the exact tools that meet the rigorous standards of a professional engineer, complete with exclusive listener perks to accelerate your firm's ROI. Today, we look at the orchestration war. Claude Code dominates developer mindshare, OpenAI internal memos reveal partner friction, and the US officially loses its AI lead to China. Let's look at the bottom line.
So right now, in a lab out in San Francisco, corporate visual data is literally being fed into living human brain cells.
Yeah, which are grown directly onto a silicon chip.
Which is just wild to even say out loud. I mean, why are we doing this? Because the conversational chatbot is dead. And the systems replacing it are consuming so much electricity that traditional silicon is, well, it's practically obsolete.
It is the raw, unvarnished reality of enterprise infrastructure today. I mean, we are moving entirely past the consumer hype cycle of AI.
Right.
And we are hitting a very real wall of physics, of scale, and of massive capital expenditure.
And that is exactly what we're unpacking for you today. Welcome to the deep dive. We are doing a highly technical, really strategic autopsy of the enterprise AI news from April 13th, 2026.
Yeah, the landscape is completely fractured.
Exactly. The core mission of this deep dive is to look at this massive vendor shift currently shaking up the industry. You know, the neat little enterprise software spreadsheets. Those are gone. We're looking at a market that has abandoned conversational AI entirely and is funneling just massive capital toward two specific areas.
Right. Agentic orchestration and solving a truly terrifying physical energy bottleneck.
So we are going to strip away the PR hype today.
We have to. I want to look at this through a highly cynical P&L-focused lens, because if you are a practitioner out there making deployment decisions based on tech blogs from last year, you are already way behind.
Well, completely.
We need to look at the cold, hard infrastructure scale and the actual M&A realities that are driving deployments right now.
So let's start on the ground at HumanX in San Francisco. I mean, this is AI's biggest conference, right?
Yeah.
And you had 6,700 executives and investors just packed onto the floor.
Yeah. And the vibe shift was undeniable.
It really was. The demise of the chatbot was practically certified in real time. Like a year or two ago, ChatGPT was all anyone could talk about.
It was the only thing that mattered.
Right. But at HumanX this year, it barely registered. Instead, the CEO of Glean coined this phrase that kind of consumed the whole event, Claude Mania.
And you do not get 6,700 decision makers, aligning on a narrative without hard revenue to back it up.
No.
Anthropic's Claude Code is now generating $2.5 billion in annualized revenue.
Wow.
Yeah. That is a staggering B2B footprint for an infrastructure tool, and the feedback from the floor was just definitive.
Yeah, I saw people like Roseanne Winsek, the VC. She was explicitly noting that last year, OpenAI looked like the clear monopoly. Yeah. But this year, Anthropic is just miles ahead in actual enterprise value.
Because of how they operate. There was a quote from the CEO of Synthesia that captured Anthropic's strategy perfectly. They said the winning playbook right now is focus over spread.
Focus over spread. I like that.
Right. They were praising Anthropic's strict discipline. No video generation, no voice cloning, just pure, reliable code generation.
I mean, I look at it like this. OpenAI is currently operating like this sprawling, chaotic department store, right? Trying to sell you everything. They've got a voice feature over here, a video generator in aisle 4, a consumer search chatbot.
A total mess of scucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Anthropic operates like a hyper-specialized boutique. They are selling one flawless, highly calibrated enterprise-grade tool. But does this massive adoption gap prove that the enterprise only cares about code automation and, couldn't care less about having a conversation?
Basically, yes. The department store analogy is spot on because it highlights exactly why enterprise buyers are so frustrated with that spread. Look, implementing a shiny AI chatbot is easy.
Sure.
You buy an API key, you put a wrapper on it, and it answers HR questions. But it doesn't fundamentally change how your business runs.
Right, it's a Band-Aid.
Exactly. Transforming a company around AI, actually rethinking your core operational processes from scratch, that requires structural automation. The practitioners making these high-stakes deployment decisions, they only care about compounding efficiency.
Not parlor tricks.
Right. A chatbot answers a question, but a coding agent builds a system that permanently automates the need to ever ask that question in the first place.
Which brings us to the new battleground. Since code generation is the ultimate prize here, the arms race has completely evolved.
It's totally shifted.
Yeah, it's no longer about a human typing a single prompt and getting, a cute little snippet of Python.
Yeah.
All the capital is flowing entirely into the orchestration layer.
This is where the real money is.
Exactly. We have 3 major labs locked in an open arms race right now. Anthropic, OpenAI, and xAI. Let's break down Anthropic first. They are building something called coordinator mode for Claude code.
Right.
To use the metaphor, it's sort of like a general contractor on a construction site. The AI isn't the one swinging the hammer anymore. It acts as a planning layer that autonomously hires specialized subcontractors.
Parallel subagents, basically.
Exactly. Parallel subagents to do the plumbing and the electrical work simultaneously to solve really complex IT architectures.
And that fundamentally changes the user dynamic. You are moving from utilizing a static tool to managing an entire digital workforce.
It's wild.
The AI breaks down a complex architecture problem, it spins up distinct virtual environments, and delegates tasks to those subagents to execute in parallel.
And OpenAI is, they're scrambling to consolidate around this exact same concept, right?
Yeah, they are pushing Codex with a new Scratchpad feature, which essentially allows the AI to run multiple tasks simultaneously in the background.
Right, and they are desperately trying to retain developer mindshare by teasing GPT 5.5.
Oh yeah, codenamed Glacier, teasing it with a little snowflake emoji.
Classic. And then xAI is pushing Grok build as the outsider, taking a slightly different angle, I guess. With credits-based pricing, a local command line interface, and this model arena for task comparison. But wait, I have to push back here. I'm going to make a bold statement. Having Anthropic's coordinator mode allow an AI to spawn parallel subagents that autonomously rewrite an entire corporate IT stack, that sounds like an absolute governance and security nightmare for a traditional IT department.
Oh, it isn't just a nightmare. It outright breaks current enterprise security models.
Right.
Standard IT identity management relies on verifying a static user at a static endpoint.
Yeah.
But when an AI is dynamically spinning up hundreds of ephemeral subagents per minute, that verification model just completely collapses.
Exactly. When an AI can spawn parallel subagents to autonomously rewrite your corporate architecture, standard identity and access management is obsolete. AIUA provides the necessary zero-trust micro-VM sandboxing to ensure your agentic swarms follow strict corporate governance.
Right, and we really need to be clear about what that actually means mechanically.
Break it down.
That zero-trust micro-VM sandboxing is critical. If one of those autonomous subagents hallucinates or, goes rogue and tries to rewrite a critical payroll database, that sandbox acts as a concrete blast wall. It physically isolates the agent's environment so the failure just can't spread to the broader corporate network.
Exactly. The enterprise is realizing that whoever nails this agentic orchestration layer while keeping the network entirely sandboxed and secure wins the mega contract.
Yep.
And it sounds to me like Microsoft is effectively suffocating OpenAI by trapping them in Azure and completely locking them out of this orchestration land grab.
Well, I wouldn't call it suffocation, but Microsoft is absolutely restricting their oxygen.
Right. Let's talk about the leak.
Yeah, we have a leaked internal memo from OpenAI's new revenue chief, Denise Dresser, that exposes this exact dynamic. According to her memo, OpenAI is seeing quote-unquote staggering inbound enterprise demand following their Amazon deal back in February.
Okay.
But they feel deeply limited by the Microsoft partnership. They are unable to easily reach enterprise customers who are already sitting on Amazon Bedrock.
Wait, so if OpenAI is desperate to escape Microsoft's walled garden to chase Anthropic's enterprise customers, are we watching the ultimate B2B cloud monopoly fracture in real time?
I think we are. And in that same memo, Dresser attacks Anthropic, claiming their strategy is built on fear and restriction.
Wow.
She even claimed that Anthropic failed to acquire enough compute and insists OpenAI is materially ahead on infrastructure.
But why is Amazon Bedrock such a massive threat to Azure here? Like, why the panic?
It just comes down to basic cloud economics. I mean, if you are a chief information officer, you do not want to be locked into a single vendor.
Right, vendor lock-in is the enemy.
Exactly. Amazon Bedrock is model agnostic. It lets you plug and play different models easily. So Anthropic is distributing everywhere, effectively capturing that multi-cloud enterprise demand.
While OpenAI is stuck.
Heavily tied to Azure's compute infrastructure. So Dresser's memo sounds less like strategic confidence and a lot more like a harsh reality check.
Yeah, an admission that they're losing developer mindshare and just scrambling to find diverse distribution channels.
Microsoft wants to lock customers into Azure. OpenAI wants to sell to anyone with a budget. Those incentives are completely misaligned.
And while the U.S. labs are squabbling over these walled gardens and cloud distribution, the actual economic ground has completely shifted to the east.
The Stanford report.
Yes, we're looking at the new Stanford 2026 AI Index report. And the data is pretty definitive. China has completely erased the U.S. lead in AI performance.
Erased it entirely.
But what really stands out to me is the transparency gap. The major U.S. labs, so Google, Anthropic, OpenAI, they have completely stopped disclosing their dataset sizes. No training duration, no underlying code. They have become these highly secretive, proprietary black boxes.
Yeah, and they often hide behind safety as the reason for closing their doors. But let's be pragmatic here. It is purely about protecting commercial IP and profit margins.
Right.
Over 90% of notable models are now private. However, the Chinese tech firms have taken the exact opposite approach.
Which is the ultimate irony. The U.S. tech companies are becoming these highly secretive black boxes, while Chinese tech firms are providing the highly capable, open-weight infrastructure that Western companies are actually relying on to protect their own margins.
Look at the deployments. Airbnb's chatbot is currently running on Alibaba's Qwen model.
Right.
Cursor, the massively popular coding tool. They built their new Composer 2 feature on Kimi 2.5, which is a Chinese model. The U.S. labs are just losing the open-weight race on pure price and performance.
Because it's basic open-weight economics, right?
Exactly. If a Chinese model performs at 98% the capacity of a proprietary U.S. model, but it costs a fraction of a cent to execute, the enterprise will shift to it every single time to preserve their margin.
But that introduces a massive paradox for the companies actually deploying them. For enterprise leaders trying to decide whether to deploy a U.S. proprietary model or a cheaper Chinese open-weight model, the geopolitical and legal risks are massive. Jamgamind provides the human-verified, technical-grade audio forensics required to make these strategic vendor decisions safely. Visit djamgamind.com.
Yeah, and we really need to unpack that geopolitical risk because it is extremely counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, ironically, downloading an open-weight Chinese model to run locally on your own corporate servers might actually offer you better data privacy.
Oh, because you aren't sending your sensitive corporate data to a U.S. cloud provider like Microsoft.
Exactly, it stays in-house. But it introduces massive compliance and regulatory risks regarding where that underlying code originated. You are trading a data privacy risk for a supply chain IP risk.
Which is a terrifying trade-off. Listen, trying to navigate this vendor shift based on Twitter hype is corporate malpractice. Stop collecting shiny beta apps and start deploying actual infrastructure. Etienne has audited the market for the AI Unraveled community. Head over to djamgamind.com/toolkit for the AI Executive Toolkit. This is a private, forensic vetted stack featuring tools like Chatbase and 11 Labs enterprise-grade weapons designed to drive actual governed ROI.
And understanding how to drive that governed ROI is absolutely critical because every system we have discussed today, whether it's proprietary or open weight, is headed straight for a mathematical cliff.
Right, the physical limit.
Exactly. Those highly governed autonomous agentic swarms from Anthropic, or the open weight Chinese models running thousands of parallel tasks a second.
Yeah.
That compounding efficiency is great for your P&L, but it is physically melting our data centers.
We are staring down a 200 gigawatt power grid problem. The energy required to run these models has proven that silicon brute force is effectively dead as a long-term scaling strategy.
Completely unsustainable.
Which brings us to the energy bottleneck, and a solution that is almost hard to comprehend. Biological compute, wetware.
This is where the hardware architecture takes a radical turn. We are looking at a startup called the Biological Computing Company, or TBC.
Based out of San Francisco.
Right. They just emerged from stealth with $25 million in seed funding. And this is not a traditional software firm. It is founded and run by former neurosurgeons.
I really need us to break down the mechanism of exactly what TBC is doing, because to a lot of people, this sounds like pure science fiction.
It really does.
They are growing actual living human neurons on multi-electrode arrays. Like, these are reprogrammed from stem cells into frontal cortex cells.
Yep.
And they are putting anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 of these living neurons onto a single chip. But how does that even work? We are literally feeding corporate visual data into living human brain cells grown on a chip. We've gone from server racks to petri dishes. How do you feed a digital JPEG into a living cell?
So it all comes down to those multi-electrode arrays. The system takes digital data, your standard ones and zeros, and it translates them into specific electrical voltage patterns.
Okay.
Those electrical patterns are fired through the electrodes to physically stimulate the biological neurons. The living cells process those patterns, they react electrically, and then the array reads that biological response. And it translates that voltage back into digital code for the computer to use. The founder, Dr. Ksensovsky, stated it plainly. All of the data flows through the biology.
And the performance data is just staggering. TBC discovered that these biological neural responses reach peak performance 3 times faster than silicon.
3 times faster,
Yeah.
Which means fewer training iterations.
Exactly, which implies a massive reduction in energy demands compared to these power-hungry, quote-unquote, rigid silicon chips.
Right.
But reading this still provokes a deep discomfort for me. Like, these chips have a lifespan of about 1 year, and because they are living biology, they create waste that literally has to be cleaned out every few days.
It is a visceral reality, I know, but it is driven purely by the limits of physics. I mean, artificial neural networks were originally named that because they modeled the human brain.
Sure.
But silicon is inherently rigid. It forces AI to scale by using brute force, pulling megawatts of power. Biology is simply mathematically superior for intelligence.
So this isn't just an academic experiment. Not at all. TBC is actively in talks with foundational model labs and cybersecurity firms to integrate these neurological signals.
Yeah.
They hope to move to real-time compute in 5 to 10 years, making these biological chips part of the live inference loop.
Though they did admit they still have to figure out how to automate the collection of the biological waste.
Yeah, that's a hurdle.
And they have to figure out how to immortalize the cells, right?
Yeah.
So you aren't replacing your IT hardware because it literally died of old age after a year.
Exactly. But if we connect all of this back to the broader picture we've painted today, I want to leave you with a chilling operational reality to ponder.
Let's hear it.
We started by tracking the death of the chatbot and the rise of the orchestration layer. Now, project this entire vendor shift to its logical conclusion. Imagine your enterprise infrastructure is being written and continuously optimized by autonomous agentic swarms from Anthropic.
Okay.
To save profit margin, those swarms are executing their logic on highly efficient open-weight Chinese models.
Right. And to solve the massive data center power grid collapse, those models are ultimately being processed by living human frontal cortex cells on a biological chip. What does an IT department even look like in that paradigm? Will the future of computing require you to hire biologists whose literal job is to clean out the waste of your living servers?
Subscribe to AI Unraveled on Apple Podcasts to always listen completely. Ads. FRE.
That concludes our Forensic Business Rundown for April 13th. The strategic signal for today is orchestration. The honeymoon phase of the AI chatbot is officially over. Enterprise capital has spoken, and it is flowing exclusively towards systems that execute. When 6,700 executives at HumanX declare Anthropic the winner because Claude code is focused purely on software execution, you see exactly what the market demands. And the stakes are rising. With OpenAI fighting with Microsoft over cloud access, China erasing the US performance lead, and Microsoft admitting that AI agents will soon need their own software licenses, the cost and complexity of enterprise AI is multiplying. You cannot rent a chatbot and call it a strategy. You must build orchestrated, secure workflows. If you want to own your infrastructure instead of being crushed by these shifts, your inbox full of top 50 AI tools PDFs isn't going to save you. You need the right stack. Head over to djamgamine.com/toolkit for my AI Executive Toolkit. I've audited the entire market to bring you a forensic vetted list of enterprise-grade solutions that actually work, complete with exclusive listener perks so you can deploy real, governed infrastructure today. This episode was made possible by Area and Djamga. Hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts to enjoy this briefing completely ads-free. I'm Etienne Newman. Stay sharp and keep unraveling the future. And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamine.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.